What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. TFD is in the building, and we've got a scorcher for you today. I'm telling you, this one's going to flip the WNBA world upside down. It's that serious. Just when you thought the drama couldn't get any messier, here comes another twist that's got everybody buzzing. Now look, this ain't just some rumor off social media. This isn't a TikToker going viral or some fan account reaching. This is straight from Forbes, the New York Times, and folks who do not mess around when it comes to facts. We're talking about Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, and what's being labeled as the biggest controversy the WNBA has seen in years. And yo, I gotta say this up front, I'm not one for overreactions. I usually like to let stuff play out. But this? Nah. This is different. This is real. They are out here making moves that could seriously damage not just Caitlin Clark's career, but the credibility of the entire league. Before we dive deeper, welcome back. Thank you for rocking with us. Shout out to the Noti gang and the whole squad holding it down in the comments. You already know. Drop a like, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get into this. Because when a league benefits from a superstar's rise but won't step in when that same superstar is targeted, pushed, and silenced, that's not just bad optics, that's a crisis. And now, people are calling for the federal government to get involved. Yeah, you heard me right. Now listen, this isn't hype. This isn't fan talk. This is real. Caitlin Clark has done for the WNBA what Michael Jordan once did for the NBA. She made the league valuable. She made it watchable. And she made it marketable. Period. Let's take a step back. The NBA went through its dark days, no question. It was Bird and Magic who started turning the lights back on. Then MJ came along a few years later and straight up revolutionized the sport. But let me be real with y'all, what Caitlin Clark has done might be even more impactful. Why? Because when MJ stepped into the league, the NBA was already gaining traction. Caitlin, she entered a WNBA that was hanging on by threads in the public eye. And she ignited it. She dragged it into the mainstream. And now it's everywhere. But here's the problem, and this is where it gets infuriating. Now look here, they said. Instead of protecting its transformative star, the league's leadership ignores the relentless targeting of Ms. Clark, treating its greatest asset as if she were a PR headache. That approach could turn into a legal liability for the WNBA. That's dangerous. Not just morally wrong, but legally risky too. Now look, we can speculate on the motives all day long. But when you hear what some of these executives and owners are saying, it's crystal clear. You've got people like Renee Montgomery, part owner of the Atlanta Dream, and Sheila Johnson, owner of the Washington Mystics. Instead of celebrating Caitlin Clark when she received a major individual honor from Time magazine, they complained. Literally complained that the whole league wasn't featured instead. That's not support. That's resentment. The media pushed the same narrative. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Caitlin Clark and the rookie class. Caitlin Clark and Aja Wilson. Never Caitlin Clark, just her. Never giving her the flowers she earned alone. And don't even get me started on Cathy Engelbert. The commissioner couldn't bring herself to shine a solo spotlight on the most marketable player this league has ever had. It's wild, y'all. They're acting like this woman didn't just save the league from sinking into irrelevance. And if they're not careful, they're gonna push her right out of it. Check out these numbers real quick. Since she joined the league last year, Ms. Clark's impact has been seismic. Merchandise sales soared 601%. Indiana Fever viewership jumped 170%. The team's value tripled. League Pass subscriptions climbed 366%. App engagement rose 613%. And her endorsements topped $11 million. She's the economic engine driving the league forward. And let's not forget, that doesn't even include all the other crazy impact numbers. I mean, just look at the Indiana Fever. This is a team that used to draw maybe 3,000 fans a night. Now, they're playing in front of sellout crowds. We're talking packed arenas, 16,000 to 17,000 people, night after night. In fact, in just 26 games, the Fever already broke the WNBA's combined home and away attendance record for an entire season. That's not just growth, that's a revolution. And who's at the center of that storm? Caitlin Clark. Yet, despite all that success, despite being the biggest reason the WNBA is finally on the map, what do we keep seeing? The relentless targeting. The the way she's guarded, the physicality, the cheap shots, and worst of all, the officials allow it. Over and over. Now don't get me wrong, basketball is physical. But the way Caitlin gets played, the kind of hits she takes, the off-ball contact, the pushing, the elbows, it's like they're trying to break her spirit. And the refs, they just swallow the whistle. In just a minute, I'm going to show you something that will blow your mind. A real eye-opener. A side-by-side breakdown of how games are called, how fouls are treated when other players are involved versus when it's Caitlin Clark. And let me tell you, it's wild. Like night and day. It makes it impossible to ignore what's really going on out there. Because when your league's biggest star is getting treated like a punching bag and nobody steps in, you're not just risking her. You're risking the entire future of the league. As Sophie Cunningham says, and of course we already know. It's nice to hear a player say it. Sophie Cunningham said what fans already know. The star player of the league is not being protected. Ms. Clark herself noted, "Everybody is physical with me. They get away with things others don't." 3 injuries have sidelined her for 10 games and the All-Star game, with ratings plummeting 55% without her. You know what? I actually hadn't heard that. If anyone's got the full context on it, drop it in the comments. Seriously. I'd love to see if there's more to it, because context matters. But let's talk facts for a second. Caitlin Clark has already been injured, 3 times this season? Or wait, am I losing count? Is it 4 now? I think it's 3 in the regular season, plus that one in the preseason that also kept her sidelined. That's 4 separate injuries. And every single time she's out, you feel the ripple. Ratings? They drop off a cliff. We're talking 55% down when she's not on the court. That's not a coincidence. That's cause and effect. The WNBA without Caitlin Clark just isn't the same draw. And that's not an insult to anyone else. That's just the reality. And of course, we've got the infamous Aya Wilson moment, where she decided to make all of this about race. She said it herself, that it is about race, and she was furious that people would even suggest otherwise. Look, I get it. People want to have tough conversations. But when you reduce everything Caitlin Clark has accomplished, all the records, all the fans, all the ratings, all the impact, down to the color of her skin, that's not a conversation. That's just bitterness. But apparently Aya Wilson is the all-knowing expert on this topic. According to her, it's got nothing to do with Clark's shooting ability, leadership, insane range, or ability to fill arenas night after night. Nope. It's all about race. Because of course she knows. She knows everything. Let's be honest. Comments like that don't just miss the mark. They're insulting. They reduce the WNBA's only real moment of massive cultural relevance in decades into some identity war. And it's dangerous. Because instead of growing the league around its most marketable star, we're watching people within the league try to tear her down over things that have nothing to do with basketball. So the article points out what we all already know, that Caitlin Clark has absorbed 17% of all flagrant fouls in the WNBA this season. And honestly, that number doesn't even scratch the surface. Because here's the truth, it's actually way worse. We're not just talking about flagrant fouls. We're talking about the nonstop cheap shots that don't get called. The hand on the hip, the body checking while she's dribbling, the illegal screens, the arms wrapped around her, and it happens every game. And the league? The refs? They just look the other way. And this article, it makes a bold claim. It says this isn't just bad officiating. It says the WNBA has created, and even encouraged, a hostile workplace for Caitlin Clark. A hostile workplace. Through repeated fouling. Through relentless targeting. Through open hostility from players, coaches, and even owners. We've already mentioned Renee Montgomery. Sheila Johnson. 2 owners of WNBA franchises who've gone on record throwing shade at Clark every chance they get. This is not some isolated thing. It's documented, it's ongoing, and it's being totally ignored by the league. And here's the kicker. Not one single player has been suspended for what's been happening to Caitlin Clark all season. Not one. That's shocking. Now here's the part that really opened my eyes. Professional sports leagues are not above the law. They are multi-billion-dollar businesses subject to the same civil rights, labor, and antitrust laws as anyone else. And when there's a breach in player safety, when public confidence gets shaken, Washington does step in. They've done it before. NCAA, USA Gymnastics, and more. Even Gino Arima, yeah, the Yukon legend, has said it clearly. Michael Jordan never faced what Caitlin Clark is going through. The article, by the way, is written by Sean McLean, published in the Wall Street Journal, and it came out just yesterday. He even dives into landmark Supreme Court cases, like Harris versus Forklift Systems, 1993, Texas Department of Community Affairs versus Burdine, 1981, and ties it all to Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Now, I'm not going to sit here and break down every legal case, but if you're into the details, I highly recommend checking out that piece. It's powerful, it's well documented, and it exposes a truth that the WNBA can't ignore forever. Now, just to really hammer this point home, I want to walk you through something, real quick, that's honestly fascinating. I want you to pay close attention here, folks. Look at your lower left corner on this play. And hey, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that Chelsea Gray, number 24? Yeah, that's her. And this right here, this leads to an ejection. That's right. She got thrown out of the game for that. Now let's be clear. Is that a flagrant foul? Absolutely. It's off the ball. The opponent isn't looking. And it's clearly unnecessary contact. Sure, it wasn't a full-blown elbow to the head or anything, but it's still a cheap shot, plain and simple. Would that be legal in soccer? Depends on the ref, right? But this is basketball. And in this context, yes, automatic ejection. Now here's where it gets wild. Let's rewind to a few things that have happened to Caitlin Clark. We had J.C. Sheldon deliberately raking her in the eyes. Not a basketball play. No ejection. No fine. Nothing. We had Tina Charles literally punching her in the back. Still no action. And of course, the infamous blindside hit from Marina Mabrey, which was as dirty as it gets. And again, you guessed it, no ejection, no suspension. But what you just watched with Chelsea Gray, that gets an automatic toss. So what's the difference here? Because you tell me, how is Caitlin Clark not being treated with a completely different standard? I'm not saying Chelsea shouldn't have been ejected, that's the rule. But if that's the standard, then why are players getting away with far worse when it's Clark on the receiving end? That's the double standard, folks. It's right there in the footage. One play gets a flagrant and an ejection. The other, nothing. Not even a whistle. So no, you're not imagining things. The treatment is real. The inconsistency is real. And the silence from the league? Even louder. And oh yeah, just to hammer it home one more time, let's not forget this happened last season too. A dead ball foul, nearly identical to what Marina Mabrey did to Caitlin Clark. But this time, it was Kennedy Carter. And just like Mabrey, she cursed at Clark before even laying the hit. And here's what's wild. Not only was Carter not ejected, she wasn't even given a flagrant in real time. Now, watch this closely. We're showing a dead ball foul here. Down at the bottom right of the screen, look carefully, you can literally see the official's hand. That ref is right there, eyes locked on the inbound. He saw everything. You can't miss it. You've got Aaliyah Boston in the frame, Caitlin Clark getting hit, and that ref's hand right there, front row seat. So what does the official call? A common foul. That's it. No review. No flagrant. No ejection. And look, I don't care how incompetent a ref may be. That's not just a bad call. That's not a mistake. That's intentional. You don't miss something that obvious unless you're choosing to. And that's where we start crossing into real problems, because this looks a whole lot like a hostile work environment. You don't let this kind of targeting go unchecked unless it's being allowed from the top. And yeah, the WNBA eventually labeled it a flagrant after the outrage blew up online. But guess what? That, after the fact, flagrant changes nothing. No ejection. No technical. No free throws. No impact on the game. You'd need 5 or 6 of those to even trigger a suspension, and nobody ever hits that mark. So basically, the league had nothing to lose by calling it a flagrant afterward. Just a PR move, not a real consequence. And again, the ref was standing right there. These aren't rookies. They know the rules. That call wasn't missed. It was deliberately ignored. And when stuff like this keeps stacking up, from the hits, the silence, the bias, the non-calls, and then we start seeing Wall Street Journal opinion pieces referencing Supreme Court civil rights cases over Caitlin Clark's treatment. Yeah, buckle up. This isn't just a basketball story anymore. Let me know what you think in the comments. Appreciate you for watching. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.